Hi everybody! I have actual updates this week. Woo! Thanks Bennett, decided that I really needed to kick this reading slump somehow or another. I was getting really frustrated with not feeling like I was making any kind of progress. Not gonna lie, that Goodreads challenge tracker telling me how many books behind I am added a little pressure. So on Tuesday I sat down. I had the day off work, so I sat down and I read a book of poetry called Holy Wild by Gwen Benaway. Read the whole thing. Fairly easy with poetry books, which is like starting last year I realized that I like poetry, you know. So I've been reading more and I was like, you know what, book of poetry, I know I have one. I remember buying it specifically for one of my reading challenges, the LGBT bingo. The author is trans, the poetry is about the trans experience. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna read it. If I can't read this, then I truly am in a slump and there's no hope for me until it, you know, my brain gets over itself, and I'll move on from there. Sat down, read the whole thing. So I was like, all right, cool, this feels good. What's next? I didn't want to jump right into the nature fix, because nonfiction takes me a while to read anyway, and I was like, all right, if I'm trying to build momentum, I want to keep that up. So what's something else? And I thought about grabbing, you know, something YA, but I was worried that anything with like real length would just kill that feeling in me. So instead I picked up The Deep by River Solomon, David Diggs, William Hudson, and Jonathan Snipes. I always forget what the like length requirements are, but it's more of a novella than a full-length novel book. But it's, you know, essentially mermaid fantasy. Heavy dialogue on the history of the slave trade and pregnant African women being thrown overboard. That's where the mermaids, well, they're not called mermaids in the story, but that's basically what they are. That's the gist of it. So the mermaids are the babies of these African women who the women, you know, drown and die, but the babies are born and they're the mermaids. And they, you know, become their own people, and the story is about, it follows one mermaid in particular, but it's about how those people came to be, and their culture and all of that. Super interesting. I really like mythology that's based on like history. And it's a shorter book. It's like less than 200 pages. So it was perfect. Obviously a little bit heavy, but it was like not a lot of the book focuses on the trauma. It's more like, obviously it's a very important aspect, but that's not what the story's about. It is given as the background, or backstory rather, of how this aquatic nation came to be. And it was just phenomenal. I highly recommend it. If you like fantasy at all, and especially within a historical context, I think you'd really love it. So read that whole thing. Felt great. I read 2 books in a day after barely reading for however long it's been now. It was a great feeling. So then I picked up the nature fix. I was like, all right, I've got some momentum, let's see where this goes. And I read almost 70 pages. It was amazing. It was fantastic. It was great. And I'm reading more today. I read on my lunch break. I had a very brief period of downtime at work today where I just pulled my Kobo out and just read for 7 minutes. I was reading in the shower just a few minutes ago. Like, I think I am well and truly back on track. I'm gonna be pulling up Chirp and Audible here when I finish this video and looking at my audiobooks and seeing what I can download and start listening to tomorrow. I'm pretty caught up on my podcasts, so there's no like competition for my ear time. Lizzie is just staring at me from her cat tree. It's a little unnerving. But yeah, I think I'm back to myself, and it feels good, man. It feels good. So that is this week's check-in. I haven't started anything else new yet. I really want to get the Nature Fix finished. It's a library book that expired while I was in Italy, and I'm still able to access it because I turned the Wi-Fi off on my Kobo and I haven't exited the book. So as long as I keep turning pages, it keeps letting me read it. So that's what I'm doing. But I would like to turn the Wi-Fi back on because I've bought a new book that I would like to download and hopefully start reading sometime soon. So we'll see. I would like to I work tomorrow, but I'm off after that, so I would like to have the Nature Fix finished by this weekend. But we'll see. I'm trying not to pressure myself too terribly much. I'm trying to find that balance between pressure yourself so that you accomplish the things you want to accomplish, but not so much that you feel like a failure. I'm not great at finding that balance, but I will try. So, as always, Lizzie, get your tail out. As always, if you have any reading recommendations for me, leave them below. As always, I will link the books I've mentioned, and I will see you guys next week.